Hi, good morning. Welcome to Springfield Agri, our conference. And I'd like to introduce my good friend James Mason, who will be speaking shortly. James is Chief Exec of Welcome to Yorkshire, and we'll be saying a few words a little later. But it's with great pride that on behalf of the team at Springfield Agri, I welcome you to our international virtual conference, Save Our Soil. We hope you enjoy the debate, the discussion, and the practical aspects of our contributors to the conference. At Springfield, we believe that regenerative farming, regenerative agriculture is the key to the future security of the food system and the secret to achieving net zero carbon emissions. This is about our health. We are what we eat. Regenerative agriculture repairs the soil's ability to build structure and continue producing food, holding atmospheric carbon and holding and retaining water to reduce the likelihood and the risk of flood. At Springfield, we believe that farmers are the heart of this, and we're pleased that the farming community are supporting us. So I'm very grateful for the messages of support that we've had and received from around the world, most notably from His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, from our former UK Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, and many others. We're grateful for the support of the UN and for our colleagues in America and around the world. And I'm pleased that our government have recognised what we're doing, as we're supported by the Farming Minister, Rebecca Powell, who will be speaking shortly after us. I want to thank our team, our technical team from Springfield, for creating a unique conference experience for us all. I hope you'll enjoy visiting the lobby and the exhibition hall, and the opportunities for networking and contacting everybody that you want to contact, a chance and opportunity for networking. And if you have any problems, please contact the help desk. Now, I'm sure that you'll agree that the impressive quality of our speakers is a testament to the journey we have begun. As I said, we believe in putting farmers at the heart of this so that we can convince the policymakers and the wider public to support that agenda of our objectives and our ambitions. So the agenda for day one will cover farming, land management, the circular economy. And I want to quote the words of a famous pop singer, Sting. We're sending out an SOS, our message in a bottle of hope for a better future, for a better planet, environment, for our children and for our children's children. We believe we can achieve these goals. So as I said, I'm joined today by James Mason. James is Chief Executive of Welcome to Yorkshire, and I know he wants to add to my welcome and to talk about what's going on in Yorkshire around these important issues of sustainability. Good morning, James.
Yeah, good morning, Gerry. And isn't it wonderful to be joined, albeit virtually, by so many people all across the world? And for those that don't know about our little piece of the planet, we call Yorkshire God's own county. And I'm actually not in the North York Moors, one of our 3 national parks. I'm actually in the centre of Leeds, but by the wonders of technology, it makes it look like I've been transported away to a nice heather moor there. But yeah, Gerry, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you on behalf of all the delegates and for people listening today. I'm looking forward to getting stuck into things.
Good. Well, as you see, we've seen, James, that the progress we've made in a few short months has been nothing but exciting. But it's clear to me and to others that the sustainability agenda is important. And I know you've been doing some wonderful things in Yorkshire, Welcome to Yorkshire, with a variety of agencies. And perhaps you might want to go through a few of the things that you've been doing.
Yeah, thanks, Gerry. Sustainability is key to Yorkshire as a county. We're the largest county in England. We have a population of over 5 million people. So whilst we're actually a county, we're not a country, but we have the very best of the UK to offer. We're as big as Scotland, we're as big as Denmark, we're as big as New Zealand in terms of population. So in terms of sustainability and in terms of the sustainability of the tourism industry, it's really important. The tourism industry in particular, and that's what Welcome to Yorkshire ultimately does. Our job is to attract people from all across the world, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, to Yorkshire. to enjoy our coastline, our vibrant cities, our wonderful heritage, arts, culture. We've 7 Michelin star restaurants. So if you're hungry, Yorkshire's the place to be, especially for fine food, but also food from the farmlands behind me, as you can see, from farm to plate. It's really important that sustainability is at the heart of our agenda. But what does that really mean? What does sustainability mean? What does regenerative tourism mean? And it's really key with what you're talking about over the next few days, because it's important, especially during a pandemic like coronavirus, that we realise the beauty of what's on our own doorstep, the importance of the value we put to soil, to food and drink, to cattle, to livestock, because if we don't protect it and if we don't appreciate what's on our doorstep, it will be gone. And as I mentioned, we're responsible for an economy that was worth £9 billion pre-pandemic. So it supports 250,000 people. And so if we're not responsible about how we regenerate that, and if we're not responsible to educate tourists about how they should behave when they're here, who else will, Gerry? So I'm more than happy to go on to a couple of things if you want me to just explain what we've been doing and with which agencies.
Yeah, that's fine, James. I just wanted to say, though, that the farming community in Yorkshire is very important. As you say, the biggest county in England, and the farming community are important to us. They've been going through a bit of a rough time in terms of the Brexit discussions and the end of the common agricultural payments, and who knows what may happen with Elms, which is supposed to be replacing. But there are lots of jobs there's lots of communities, there's lots of land management issues that need to be addressed. And I know that you've been doing some stuff with the Yorkshire, which it's the background to your thing today. But perhaps talk us through some of those things that you've been looking at around sustainability.
Yeah, and just on that, in terms of our farming agriculture culture, we have, we are a county of farmers in many ways. A lot of my colleagues are steeped in their traditions and are landowners and farmers, and ultimately it starts and ends there, doesn't it? I mentioned the 7 Michelin star restaurants and our food and drink provenance. It all comes from the land, so it is really important that we preserve that. In terms of how tourism is changing, and in terms of what we're doing as an organisation to make people aware of how important it is to respect the land, there are 4 things I'd like to just touch upon. The green economy, the green tourism, less damage. So we're going through a campaign at the moment called Yorkshire, whereby we're trying to underpin Yorkshire as the walking capital of the world. Now, no one owns that title, but it's typically Yorkshire to be quite self-confident, quite bullish, and say, we're going to own it. And we don't just mean walking around the beautiful countryside behind me. We mean walking through town centres, urban centres, walking around your own landscape, your own backyard, we would call it, on your doorstep. So, but with that, overuse of walking paths, overuse of fields, walking on crops when they're in season, knocking down dry stone walls. And a dry stone wall in Yorkshire is a wall made without any sediment or any cement. It's a real fine art built over a number of years. So it's about respect. Sustainability, net neutral. How can we make sure that going forward, as part of the circular economy that I know you're going to speak about later this year, we only use what we need? And actually there's so much waste around at the moment, and has been for a number of years. So we're very keen to make sure people are responsible for how they visit Yorkshire now. Take litter with you, but take it home, if that makes sense. Take plastic bags to put the sandwiches in for the kids, but take it home with you. And there's a big piece of work that we all know about in recent years about, sustainable products and using straws and then changing them to be biodegradable straws. But it probably goes back to, let's be honest, I suppose, not eco-warriors, but understanding about, ecology and understanding about the planet that we're in. So regeneration, moving on from sustainability now, is making it better. How can we attract tourists to Yorkshire, but actually get them to buy into leaving it in a better place than when they came? So we're seeing trends of people having farm stays, people coming to Yorkshire to work on a farm, people coming to Yorkshire to give back to communities. There's a heritage site in North Yorkshire called the Helmsley Walled Garden, which is a charity, and it's about preserving a village in the north of the county. And the key with that is people are coming to Helmsley to see the ruins, to see the market town, but also to put back into what's going on there.
Yeah. This is about science as well, James, in terms of carbon and the carbon targets of 2030. What's happened is clearly, when people were looking at 2050 as a possible period for action to be done, it's now being brought forward to 2030. And through the science, through being able to capture carbon in the ground, and find and new ways of managing farms and things like that. This whole argument and discussion needs to be a part of the education, and clearly what you've been talking about in terms of the Yorkshire and the regeneration issues in Yorkshire are important, but there's a crucial thing as well about economy of the future in terms of the jobs that can be created through regenerative farming, through food and food transparency. We're aware of a school in Halifax who will be speaking later, who are producing good food for children to make sure that they're fit and healthy. And I think you're right, on the back of COVID, people are looking at what they eat and what happens and looking at the environment. So I think the time scale for this is very important. And I know that you think that the economy and Yorkshire's economy is vital.
Yeah, so 2 campaigns, and I'm not going to use this opportunity to sell to any of your delegates this afternoon. But I mentioned at the outset, there's 5.5 million people that live in Yorkshire. There's probably 30 million people in the UK with a connection to the county, and there's hundreds of millions of people across the world that are connected with Yorkshire. So we developed a campaign whereby we're attracting people to walk. So that's about sustainable transport. Walking is the most inclusive activity that anyone can do. Yes. We all need cars to get from A to B over long distances, but actually the road and rail network in the UK is something that's a big challenge over the next few years. But within Yorkshire, during a pandemic, when there's not much you can celebrate, we're asking people to walk. And one step further on from that is tree planting. So as I mentioned, the diaspora of Yorkshire people across the world is huge. And we know the Irish and the Scots have done it particularly well. You can't go anywhere in the world without bumping into an Irish bar. It would be my dream to have some sort of Yorkshire produce or restaurant in every town and city across the world. But we can do that by connecting the dots. And we wanted to give back to people that are from the county or that have studied here or lived here or worked here through a membership scheme. And for that, we want something tangible. So in the past, you can buy a star or you can buy part of a planet. We're actually donating a tree to anyone that signs up to our membership. So we want to plant 5,000 trees in 2021. That's not a lot of trees, by the way, Gerry. It's a very, very small step in the global woodlands. But at the same time, if we do our bit, if Yorkshire does its bit, if individuals do their bit, it adds to that bigger mass. And as you mentioned, soil preservation, flood damage, but also, putting roots down. If everyone plants one tree, the world will solve its deforestation very quickly.
It will. And you mentioned there, James, the partnerships that Yorkshire is well known for, obviously with the Tour de France and the international partnerships that you've made. You're aware that our conference has delegates from around the world, from the UN. And I think this global message is going to be vitally important. In the couple of minutes that we've got left, perhaps you just want to say how important you think what we're doing at Springfield Agri is, and how the international element of all of this is important for the planet.
Yeah, and Gerry, we know each other, so I'm going to break confidence here with the delegates that we do know each other. But you rang me to speak on this, not because we know each other, not because Yorkshire is in our hearts, but actually, I think you're on the cusp of something very important here. I think there's an element of zeitgeist across the world where we all really appreciate that it's our opportunity and it's also our responsibility to give back, whether you're a farmer, whether you're a tourist, whether you're a business owner. And I think, you refer to carbon emissions there. I've got a bit of a dichotomy here. On one hand, I want tourists from all over the world to fly into Yorkshire, which of course is affecting our carbon footprint. But I think it's really important that we work in collaboration with government, with farmers, with unions, with international bureaus, especially the UN, and their 17 policies on eco-tourism and ecology. I think it's really important that we do that. So I think you're right, Gerry. We're just a small part of this conundrum that we can solve it. But I think it's really important what you're doing. And to get a delegate list of 400-500 people on a call today when we're all, getting fed up of Zoom calls is really, really impressive. So we'll do our part. And I hope you have a fantastic week, by the way.
Okay, well, thank you, James, for that. And just say to the delegates, I hope that's given you a flavour for the start of our conference. The speakers are many and varied, experts around the world, but all with that message that we want to get regenerative farming, soil regeneration and carbon capture on the agenda with our governments to make sure that we make progress for the next generations. Thank you, and thank you, James.
My pleasure. Have a great week.